It's ridiculous that we cannot go a single day in the last month and a half without some form of news about a government, a company, or some form of activist group trying to censor the free internet, censor freedom of expression, censor free speech, and collect your data. It's honestly ridiculous. When it happens once or twice in a short time frame, you might chalk it up as a coincidence. But when it happens literally like 10, 20, 30 times, and it continues to grow, that is no longer just a coincidence. And anyone at this point in time still trying to deny that this isn't coordinated, I don't know what to say, because it is ridiculous just how many governments around the world collectively decided to get the exact same idea of trying to censor everyone, trying to censor the internet, trying to censor gaming, trying to censor artists. It's ridiculous. Now, there is a lot of news that I want to cover in today's video. There is some bad, obviously, and there's some good, and there is just so much. We got stuff with Brazil, we got stuff with Canada, we got stuff with the United States, we got stuff with Japan, we got stuff with Collective Shout. There is so much I want to cover in this video, and so let's start off with what you could see on the screen already, this petition. So this is an official petition in Canada right now. Now, for those that are unaware, Canada does also have a law currently within their government that is trying to do the exact same thing that the Online Safety Act in the UK and the Digital Service Act in the European Union is currently doing. For instance, censoring the internet, censoring freedom of expression, knowing who you are through ID or whatever, age restrictions and stuff like that. What we have definitely seen in the last month and a half, that it's not about protecting children. There is a current law or bill within the Canadian government that is trying to do the exact same thing, which I've already covered on the channel. This petition here is more or less trying to talk about the censorship and call in the, Canadian government like, hey, we do not like what's going on with these payment processors and stuff trying to censor people. For instance, the petition, what it tries to outline here is MasterCard, Visa, and other payment platforms have been leveraging their power over consumer ability to purchase legal content. In 2021, MasterCard changed its policies to regulate adult entertainment by preventing the use of its payment platform on numerous adult entertainment sites. As of July 2025, video game distribution service Steam now cites Rule 15 that adult-only content is not permitted on the platform if it goes against payment processor policies. Steam does not describe that content is defined as adult only. So to basically give a brief rundown, there is a petition ongoing right now in Canada, and I highly recommend every single Canadian that cares about freedom of expression, cares about the way to express yourself within art or gaming or whatever, to sign this petition and to get your government to actually respond. And also, apparently there is some politicians that are actually backing this as well, backing this petition within Canada. So that is some good news. So this clearly does have some significant weight. There is definitely a voice that is building here. And so I urge Canadians to do what's probably right. This is the time to band together and fight for your freedom. That's just my personal opinion, and that's why I'm bringing this up first, because this is some good news, and this is, Canadians being able to actually fight back. And people have been asking me for a while, Chibi, what can we do? How can we fight back? As I've said prior, contact your local governments, contact your senator, your governor, or whatever form of position of power within your country is. Try to talk with them. Try to let them know what is going on and explain to them. And, something could theoretically be done. If there's enough voices talking about it, obviously they will have to respond. And so in this case, that's what's going on here. So if you're Canadian, I highly recommend you to look into this and sign this petition for your government can respond. Just like how there's an official petition in the Canadian government to fight back against payment processors, there is now a petition within the Australian government to also do the exact same thing. This is literally breaking news. This just came out like a few minutes ago of me editing my video, and so I'm sharing this with all of you guys right now. So if you are an Australian, then you should also be signing this petition as well. It's basically to do the exact same thing that the Canadian petition is doing, to stop the censorship of the internet, to stop payment processors from denying services to like Steam and itch.io and stuff like that. So if you don't want to be censored, if you don't like what these payment processors have been doing, then 100% sign this petition and speak out and talk about this to your local politicians or representatives within your country. Now, this is the United States calling out the UK and the EU for the censorship of the internet and how it's an attack on not just creative freedom, but free speech itself within America. And within this hearing that is outlined, they were talking about Europe's threat to American speech speech and innovation. And here's the witnesses that were coming in also for this hearing, as you can see here. Feel free to pause the video. But pretty much within this hearing, they were just directly stating, we do not like what you're doing to American companies, how you're trying to fine American companies, how you're trying to bully American companies to do what you want, even though they are not in the United Kingdom. There's no business for UK or the EU to be able to force these companies within America to buckle and bend and do the will of another foreign government. They're not having it. And so this more or less, I think, is the beginning of a very long ordeal. Like, this hearing is probably the start of probably a lot of different hearings, a lot of different, I guess, back and forth between the individual countries, talking about the situation of the Online Safety Act and the Digital Service Act. And for those that need a kind of a summary on what the UK and the EU has been doing, which I don't know why you would need it, but as we've seen already in the last month and a half, the EU has done anything but protect the children or think of the kids. The whole point of the Online Safety Act, or how they were pushing it and advertising it and how it got passed, was that we need to protect the kids. We need to think of the children. But we know that that is a straight-up lie, that the Prime Minister and everyone in the UK has done exactly the opposite of actually protecting people. In fact, they have put more children and more women and people within harm's way than actually protect them. In fact, they're labeling people terrorists if you dare even talk about, let's say, immigration. They are throwing people into jail for memes and just random posts on social media platforms. They don't care about actually thinking of the children. They more or less want to control you and stop you from what you're doing and become a nanny state, which is very relevant to what we're about to talk about, actually. So this is the Prime Minister of the UK, aka a very big person in power, and this is what they had to say literally a few days ago. And I'm going to read this big bunch of mess here that really just goes to show the priorities of the UK and also this individual that has been actively advocating and pushing the Online Safety Act. I won't shy away from decisions to protect kids, even if there are predictable cries of nanny state. We're stopping shops from selling high-caffeine energy drinks to under 16 so they can turn up to school ready to learn. The absolute gall of the Prime Minister of UK to say something like this is actually unhinged. It's so unhinged because anyone that's been paying attention in the news, anyone that's within the UK and also around the world has seen what the UK has been doing. They have been actively censoring their population, the citizens of the UK. There is massive protest within the country right now. They are not protecting kids, they're not protecting women, and if you dare speak out about what's going on within the country, if you wave your own flags, for instance, the British flag, you are labeled an extremist. You're labeled a terrorist. And it's insane, the priorities that the Prime Minister, the one that has been advocating for the Online Safety Act, the one that has been censoring the internet and started this whole domino effect in the last month and a half, the fact that they are more focused on stopping energy drinks from getting to kids than actual real problems just shows how the government of the UK is actively working against its population. It's a government that doesn't care about what its citizens think. It's a government that just doesn't want to listen to what its citizens have to say. I mean, there was a petition with over 500,000 signatures, which is a lot of people, and the government responded saying, we don't care. We don't care what you have to say. And the fact that the Prime Minister legitimately says nanny state as well, cries of nanny state, listen to your citizens. They clearly are not happy. Your population is not happy. It is actually insane just seeing how unhinged this Prime Minister actually is and how they have complete disregard for their citizens getting actually harmed by people. So this is Brazil trying to do the exact same thing as what the UK has been doing for the last month and a half to the internet. So let's read what the Brazilian government has to say. So last week, a Brazilian judge ruled that removing content deemed unlawful under Brazilian law is not enough if limited to Brazil. The judge is now demanding the global removal of online content under threat of hefty fines for the platform. These decisions are based on recent Superior Court of Justice. So, to more or less summarize this, pretty much Brazil's like, okay, we're going to censor a population, we're going to censor the internet, stop you from speaking or saying what you want to say, but obviously this is not effective. This is not as effective as we would like because obviously VPNs exist and different governments and different people around the world exist as well. Basically, it's not an echo chamber. And Brazil is like, okay, we don't like that it's not an echo chamber, so we need to also make sure other companies and other and places around the world censor themselves as well. And this is something that is showing an obvious pattern. It isn't just Brazil doing this. For instance, we have seen, UK, they have been trying to censor the internet. We have seen Australia do the exact same thing, the EU trying to do the exact same thing, and there's probably other, countries as well that I'm completely unaware of. The point of the matter is that there is a clear pattern, that a lot of governments are echoing the exact same thing. They're echoing this statement to where censorship within their home country isn't enough, that they need to force this will upon every single country worldwide. And we've already seen the damage of what one country can do to the internet worldwide. Collective Shout, the activist group within Australia that literally had Steam, Itch, and a bunch of other people just basically deplatformed or debanked and lost thousands upon thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, and force Steam to change their policies thanks to payment processors. So we have already seen governments trying to enforce their will worldwide in terms of censorship because they know it's not as effective if it's just their country. They want other countries to follow suit. So that's the point here, is that we have another example of the Brazilian government doing the exact same thing. It's not the first government to do it, and it's probably not going to be the last. But the reason why this is so interesting and why I'm bringing this up is obviously to spread awareness of it, but also to talk about the situation of how this is related to the 4chan stuff. For those that are unaware, about a week and a half ago, 4chan was getting fined by the UK government to basically censor itself. 4chan was saying, no, we're not. We're an American company. Piss off. And that's pretty much what was said. So, American companies and sites and stuff, they don't technically need to listen to foreign governments. They don't. But obviously, these governments think they do have the power. And we've already seen some companies, some websites that are very massive, already bend the knee, so to speak. YouTube, Google, Apple, and also other little companies and stuff that it's slipping my mind right now. But we have seen companies already try to buckle and bend for these governments to censor and affect everybody worldwide. So that's the point here, is that it's obviously working, and I'm bringing awareness to this, or it doesn't work. And since we were already on the topic of Collective Shout, let's talk about the stuff with Australia, which is pretty interesting actually, because it showcases that there is individuals within Australia that are not on board with the global censorship, and even Collective Shout as well. So let's read this real quick. Australia's Senate ordered the release of all emails between e-safety commissioner Julie and GARM, a global censorship group backed by ad giants. Operative word right there. Published emails reveal a grant coordinated with GARM to suppress political speech online while in office. So, pretty much what we have seen already with multiple different countries, and just like I said, the last month and a half, is that, UK, for instance, they have been censoring freedom of expression and speech. I mean, if you talk about politics or different things that oppose the government of the UK, they'll arrest you. They'll strip search you. They did it already to someone. And it's clear that there is definitely some rampant corruption going on, and people are globally trying to censor people from speaking out about certain perspectives or viewpoints on politics. And apparently, there is now an investigation into emails in Australia about this, about global censorship. So, this doesn't necessarily just stop at Australia. This most likely can open the doorway up to what's potentially going on globally, since it literally mentions global censorship group, backed by ad giants, which is very interesting. Ad giants, there's quite a few big companies that host ads. Google is a good example. So I am curious to see more about this when more information is revealed. Hopefully this doesn't turn into a nothing burger or it goes nowhere, because this seems like a very important investigation into what's been actively going on, since technically Australia is like ground zero for what's happened in the last month and a half. I mean, with Collective Shout targeting Steam and targeting itch.io, I think that it's interesting to see something like this. So I'll definitely have this, I'll be paying attention to this. If more information comes out about it, I will definitely talk about it. Since we're already on the topic of Collective Shout, I guess let's continue talking about Collective Shout, because they've also made themselves look even more foolish in the last few days. So legality is not the defining factor. Steam's censorship campaign details it seeks removal of games whether legal or not. This is the headline of the article, and if you go down the article and you start reading it, this piece right here is what really stands out. And this is what Collective Shout had to say. Our work focuses on combating the sexual objectification and exploitation of women and girls, so we focus our energy there, says Roper. That said, we call out this objectification and abusive depictions of women and girls even where they are not illegal. Legality is not the defining factor. It is about documented evidence of harm to women and girls. Now, we already know Collective Shout is known liars. They make up information, they make up fake emails, domain names, etc. to be able to spread this propaganda and agenda to censor the internet, censor gaming and art, etc. We've already seen it. And this is the same group that tries to stand together to defend cuties, by the way. If you don't know what cuties is, that's good for you, but obviously cuties is unacceptable because it actually objectifies and exploits real people, real girls. And so the fact that they will defend that, but they will go after icky Steam games or itch.io games and stuff, showcases their priorities. And this right here showcases that they won't stop at just like content that they think is illegal. They will stop at content that they won't even stop at legal content, that they will go after legal content as well to get it censored. So it's very clear that this group of Karens is very malicious. They do not care whatsoever. They just want to have all the power for themselves and to say what you can or cannot play or watch. So yeah, that's basically an update on Collective Shout, pretty much showcasing just how unhinged these Karens really are. Apparently Japanese news outlets are now starting to cover Collective Shout. They are covering them actively, discussing what's going on with payment processors, what's been going on with the censorship of the internet with the UK Online Safety Act and everything. There is a lot of conversation now within Japan about censorship, and it is boiling to the surface. The mainstream public within Japan is now talking about it. A lot of politicians are talking about it. Yamada Taro obviously is a good example of this, and I think that this is good. We're seeing more conversation within Japan, that the common, normal citizen within Japan is now aware of what's going on, and they're not happy. So I think that this showcases an escalation, that Japan is actively fighting on the front lines against censorship to allow freedom of expression to flourish. And speaking of freedom of expression, the Florida law that banned Assassination Classroom was blocked by a judge. And this is some legitimately good news, actually, to see. This is a victory for freedom of expression and just for those to be able to create what they want or read what they want. So let's read this for a second. A Florida law that was used by conservative groups to ban Assassination Classroom and other famous anime titles has been overturned by a federal judge. Signed into law in 2022, but expanded in 2023, the law was struck down on the basis of it being a violation of the First Amendment right to free speech. The Florida bill did two things in relation to book censorship: demanded school libraries to remove any books containing obscene content, and it empowered any resident of any county in Florida to demand any remaining titles removal from the libraries. We covered how this law was used to ban Assassination Classroom in one Florida county in 2023, but that was just the beginning. With PIN.org, nearly 5,000 cases of banned books in Florida, the highest in the nation. So more or less, what happened here is a judge pretty much blocked this law, this bill that was pretty much censoring book reading, banning books, etc. within Florida. A judge came in and was like, nah, we're not having this. And so it's not just Assassination Classroom that has now been unbanned. It's a bunch of other books, basically. So this is good news. It's good news for creative freedom, freedom of expression, free speech and everything. Just great news overall. And speaking of good news, Yamada Taro, the politician within Japan, he has confronted payment processors like Visa and MasterCard, talking about the rampant censorship on Steam, itch, different websites, a dating app within Japan, pretty much confronting payment processors, and there is some progress. Yamada Taro said that there is progress being made, so we don't know too much else besides that, but that is good news. So there is once again, some good news going in Japan, where there is progress fighting back against it. But that's pretty much about it. So yeah, there is so much that's happened. Like I said, some good, some bad, but overall, I'm just going to continue talking about this because I think it's incredibly important to continue the heat and pressure on these different companies and countries, and people need to be more aware of what's going on because I'm very passionate about those being able to express themselves, and I think that it's important to fight for stuff like this. I feel like it is one of the most important things I can do as a content creator, fight for people, and I am very happy I can use my platform not just to talk about this, but also communicate with other politicians, for instance, like Japanese politicians, about what's been actively going on worldwide. And I'm very thankful to all of you that have been supporting these videos and allowing me to actually talk about this. But I want to wrap it up here. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe, leave a like on the video, do leave a comment. It helps with the algorithm. Chibi out.